I am a public health nurse currently. I graduated with my associate's degree from Western in '07, and then I got my bachelor's online through UW. And after that, I worked as an OB nurse here at our hospital for about 6 years. Through that time, I also worked briefly at a pediatrician's office, a little bit on med surg, a little bit here at Western as a faculty member. So I'm kind of a hodgepodge. And then I started at community nursing almost 5 years ago. My primary role at community nursing is doing maternal and children's health home visiting. So what that is a home visiting service for moms and babies. We have a bunch of different home visiting options, but basically the idea behind them is to reach out to women who just want help. We refer to resources. We make sure that they have insurance. We talk to them about things during their pregnancy. Are they ready for labor and delivery? What is their household like? Looking at concerns about domestic violence. Do they need counseling? I wear more hats at community nursing than I can even count. I don't feel like I do a lot of nursing some days because I don't start IVs and I don't do a lot of physical assessments anymore. I sometimes feel more like a social worker or a counselor. But we also do nursing stuff in our clinic. I don't know where to go from here. We're just a hodgepodge. So the primary program that I do through community nursing is called the Nurse-Family Partnership. What the Nurse-Family Partnership, some of the guidelines of it are I have to enroll a client prior to their 28th week of pregnancy. So we get referrals when they come into our office needing presumptive eligibility, which is a form of Medicaid that presumes they will qualify for pregnant woman Medicaid. After we get them hooked up with presumptive eligibility, we then help to get them on pregnant woman Medicaid to make sure that they have insurance to see their OB provider to help have a healthy pregnancy. So I get referrals from there. We get referrals from the OB offices. Sometimes the school nurses will give us a call. We'll start with a pregnancy test, and it just kind of steamrolls from there. So lots of referral systems. So prior to 28 weeks, I admit them to the Nurse-Family Partnership program, and I visit them on a different schedule, whatever my client's needs are, until their child turns 2 years old. So it's like a 2.5-year program, a very long-term program. Wyoming has some flexibility. So it's a nationwide program, but Wyoming has flexibility just because we don't have a huge population. So in a lot of other areas, they have to be low income. They have to be high risk. There has to be something that is concerning about them or their family or their pregnancy. But we don't have that criteria here in Wyoming. We're able to admit anyone that's interested, basically. Right now, I do have 10 women that I am seeing with the Nurse-Family Partnership program, and I think I've graduated like 5 since I started. So I go into these women's homes and I say, I would like to visit you and your child and help you become the best mother you can be for the next 2.5 years. And they look at me like I'm insane. I am just this woman who they know nothing about, and I am inviting them, they're inviting me into their home, which brings along so many things with it. When I worked at the hospital, women would come in, they would have a baby, and I could tell them what to do. I could be more encouraging. I could even be a little more demanding sometimes. But when you are going into a person's home, you have to be a little more careful because they can easily just be done with you. And a lot of the women that we see need our services, and they might not see it, but they need that extra help, and it's just different. We're supposed to use a lot of motivational interviewing, so if they ask me a question, I try not to give them a direct answer. I try to work them through a process of figuring it out themselves so that in the future when they have a problem, they know that they can work it out themselves, because a lot of women that I see have never been asked, what do you want? They come from poverty. They come from a family system where they were told what to do, or they've never had much confidence or goal setting or any of those things. So using motivational interviewing to help them work through those processes. I always ask them what they want to know. Obviously, I come with goals thinking, okay, they probably need to know what labor and delivery is going to be like. If they choose to breastfeed, I am a certified lactation counselor also, so I can help a lot with breastfeeding. I want to make sure that they know how to feed their baby, how to change their baby, how to dress their baby, but they don't have to say okay. I've had a client in the past who I was concerned that she was using marijuana during pregnancy, and I have to ask, would it be okay with you if I brought some information about how marijuana use during pregnancy can affect your fetus? And she said, no, I don't want to know. I said, okay. So it's very client-based, which is just a different form of nursing. And that's one of the amazing things about nursing is you can do just about anything with it. Like I said, I've had so many different jobs and so many different opportunities. So that's kind of the Nurse Family Partnership Program. The other program is called Partners for a Healthy Baby, and it's a state program. Kind of the same thing, still home visiting. It just doesn't have the admitting criteria. So we could start visiting them the week before they have the baby. We could start visiting them 4 weeks after they have the baby. That program again goes until their child is 2 years old. We can visit 3 times, 2 times, 20 times. It's just a little bit more flexible, which is nice. In our office, we have 4 nurses that do home visiting with the maternal children's health. And then we have what is called a Best Beginnings coordinator. And I think on the papers I listed Best Beginnings just because it's a little bit different. She is not a nurse. She actually has a social working background, which benefits us greatly. She does a lot of our intake work. So like I was talking about that presumptive eligibility, when they come into the office, they meet with her first. She does all the intake. She assesses drug history, alcohol history, depression, sexual violence, a lot of their resources, and really gets them connected with all those things before they even see us sometimes. I mean, I can do those things, and I definitely do them, but she's just kind of our gatekeeper, I guess, which helps.
You're doing great.
Thanks. It's so hard to even describe everything we do. Yes.
So actually when I moved to Wyoming a couple of years ago, when I was pregnant with my son, I was kind of struggling because I didn't know like what to expect. And actually someone referred me to you guys.
Okay.
And I actually worked with him for 2 years with my son.
Perfect.
Yeah, with like, I think I opted for it, you know. Like in the
yes, all of our programs are completely voluntary and completely free.
And she was actually someone that inspired me to come to nursing school. And so I was, I always asked her, like, how do I do what you do? So my question is to you, how do I do what you do? Because that was something that always interests me. Like, I'd always told him, like, this is something I would love to do when I got my nursing degree, is come and work with women in their homes. So, yeah.
First of all, Kim is amazing. She's now my boss, which is even more amazing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
How you do what we do. Recently, we had to fill out some stuff for work that made us question a little bit when we were coming into our position, what would have benefited us. I definitely think having a pediatric background helped me, because when I meet with moms and talk to them about their infants and their newborns, I know a lot about it from working on OB and from working at a pediatric clinic. I mean, you don't have to come in having that knowledge, but it sure helped me a lot. Also having my own children helped. But I think, so what we ended up deciding was that we felt like having a bachelor's degree was kind of a pro for our position, just because a lot with your bachelor's degree you learn, delegating and things like that, but more how to work on your own. because I'm completely on my own. I go into people's houses that I've never met before. That's where Facebook comes in handy, so I can stalk them a little bit. So I know what I'm looking at before I walk into the house.
Kim was like, I know, you make sure you weren't a killer.
Yes.
No,
So learning how to deal with those things on your own, learning what's normal, what's not normal, what can be concerning. So we decided a bachelor's would be beneficial, and I think we decided at least 2 years of some previous experience, ideally in maternal and children's health in some realm, whether it be something like Amanda does, or pediatric stuff, OB, women's health, just to have a little bit more information and background. We have a nurse in our office who was doing mostly adult health stuff, which I do not do adult health. Adults are not, I'm not good with adults. I'm way better with babies. So she, because we have such a need for our services, she has been doing some training to basically do what I do. And it took her like 6 months working one-on-one with somebody from the state just to learn about things like SIDS and what to tell somebody when they ask about discipline, norms with pregnancy, just kind of some of the basics that not everybody knows. So that's kind of how you get to where we are.
Yeah. So lots of experience.
Yes.
So my question is, you stated that you had concerns about a parent doing possibly illegal drugs during pregnancy. What do you do with those concerns in your position?
So when somebody first comes to see me, I always have them sign a consent to talk with their OB doctor. If they've had the baby, a consent to talk with their pediatrician. If they're connected with WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, to talk to them if I need to. So a bunch of different consents, and that allows me to contact their OB provider and discuss those concerns. I prefer to be honest with my clients, but that's not always the case, because in some instances, if my clients don't trust me, they don't want me there anymore, which I understand. You don't want somebody in your house, and you don't want to be open to them and talk to them about these things if you don't trust them. So I have had to contact OB providers. I have had to contact DFS. I've had a few cases where I've worked very closely with DFS because of concerns in the home where that child is not safe. We, as nurses, we are mandatory reporters. So if you have a concern for the baby or a concern for the parent, we have to report it. And I always make sure that my clients know that from the very first time I ever meet them. You know, I care about you, and I want you to trust me, and I want you to be open with me, but if I am concerned about you or your child, I will report it.
Good to know.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you work with many of the other family members, like the father or grandparents or anything like that?
So with the home visiting, it is completely their decision who comes to the appointments with us. Grandparents can come, fathers can come. I've had a client and 3 of her friends come. So it's completely up to them who comes with them. I've had a couple of situations where, well, one that I can think of right now, the mother gave guardianship away to a family member. And I did work briefly with them, but the way that our programs work, it's meant to work with mom or father. So we can, but kind of on a more limited basis. Anybody else right now?
Going back to what you were talking about earlier about the friend that was pregnant doing marijuana, how as a hopefully future headstrong nurse would I be able to walk away from that situation? Is that a reportable situation?
I talked with her OB provider about it.
Okay.
This particular client is also on probation. So I have been in contact with her probation officer about it because she is supposed to be having randoms. And she denies that she's using it, but I don't believe that. And it's just very individualized. With her, she's a little bit more shy, so I kind of skirt around it a little bit. I've had clients in the past that are very direct with me, and I know I can be very direct with them. And like I had one client who was talking about, and she's underage, and she was talking about going out that night and drinking with her friends. She said, but I probably shouldn't tell you that. And I said, where's your child going to be? She said, with my parents. And I said, and who's going to drive you? And she said, I'm staying at my friend's. And I said, okay. I mean, I'm not their parent. I am not there to tell them what is right and wrong. I am there to make sure that they are safe and their child is safe. It's hard not to judge. I mean, I heard somebody ask Amanda that question. I constantly have things going on in my head like, I cannot believe that this child is living in this situation, or I cannot believe that you are making this decision for yourself because you are with another guy who is a complete asshole to you. But that's not my place. It's not my life. Trying to get them to want better for themselves. If they're in a bad relationship, bringing them information on healthy relationships, what domestic abuse can be like, if it's financial, emotional, physical, sexual, there's so many different things. So presenting information, trying to get them to see that on their own without me telling them, because that's not helping them in the long run. I'm not going to be around forever. When their child is 5 and they're in a bad relationship, I'm not going to be there to tell them what to do. The programs are a lot about building self-efficacy so they can make those decisions on their own and they can have that confidence to know that they want better. But a lot of times it's hard because a lot of the clients we work with are in that cycle of poverty, and there's a really amazing training called Bridges Out of Poverty. I don't know if anybody's heard about it. But basically it's the idea that people who grow up in poverty have a completely different mindset than some of us might have. When I worked on OB, I would have the hardest time with people who would come in and they were on Medicaid and they were saying that they didn't have a car seat for their child to leave in, but they had the latest iPhone, and I walked them out to an Escalade. And I thought, how is this even possible? Like, how in your mind is this working? But that training really taught me that people who are living in that, they are all about, they called it entertainment. So they finally get a paycheck and maybe they haven't paid their water bill, but they really want to go get their nails done because this is the first nice thing that they've done for themselves in months. So to me, it doesn't make sense, but to them, that's the way they grew up and that's what's normal for them. I've helped clients with budgeting. A couple weeks ago, I had a client who, she was always running out of her SNAP and WIC by the middle of the month. So I met her at Walmart, well, before. We made a grocery list. She picked 5 meals she wanted to make that month. We made a grocery list for it. We looked to see what was on sale. I met her at Walmart. We did the grocery shopping. We went and checked out, and she said, I spent half of what I normally spend. A lot of people that we deal with don't have those skills. They don't know how to budget. They don't know normal daily functions because they didn't grow up with that. Nobody ever taught them that. So it's just recognizing that although I may not agree with it and I may not understand it, it's their norm. And just trying to work with that and help them through it in the most non-judgmental manner I can. I have a horrible time holding my face because I am a very facial person. So sometimes I will look at them like, and they'll laugh about it, and I have plenty of clients that I can be very honest with, but some I just have to sit there and think the things in my head. As a nurse in any place of employment, anywhere you go, I cannot speak enough to the importance of having somebody that you can trust, that you can talk to. I mean, obviously I can't go and tell my husband, I saw this person today and this is where they live and this is what I encountered. But I do have really great coworkers that I can go back to the office and vent to. Or if I need to, I can tell my husband I had a really crappy day just because I went into a home and the child was not taken care of. But just having an outlet, because otherwise you will go crazy. This is a hard job. Taking care of people is a hard job.
So did you say it was 2.5 years of the child? That's how old they are, then your program stops?
When they turn the month of their 2nd birthday is when the program stops.
Okay.
So I have a couple of clients coming up in the next 3 months who will be reaching that. And usually the last 3 months of the program, whereas throughout the program I meet with them every other week, the last 3 months of the program I only meet with them once a month because we try to wean them, I guess, in lack of better words, just because I'm not there forever and they need to recognize that it's okay and they'll be all right on their own. I have one client who I won't graduate for 8 months and she's already freaking out about it. We had to look at the calendar and determine when I would meet with her and how often it would be, and she had to count out the visits. And just because she is young, she has no family support. I mean, she's doing amazing things, but she said, I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. So every situation is different, yeah.
So are your services mostly provider preferred? Are they court ordered ever or self-referred?
They can't really be court ordered just because one of the criteria of our programs is that they're voluntary. The client that I was speaking of that's on probation, part of her probation is that she has to be enrolled in some sort of maternal and child health education, and I just recently found that out. But kind of the thing there is she decided to enroll in the Nurse Family Partnership, whereas there are other options in town that she could have decided to enroll in.
Going back to that bridges out of poverty, what do you do to help get them out of that mindset to help them have a better life?
Talk about budgeting, talking about, budgeting's the big one. They may never get out of that mindset. I have one of my clients that is always struggling. Her mom asked her for money to take a trip to Salt Lake and she gave it to her when she wasn't even sure if she was going to be able to buy diapers for her kid that month. So it takes a long time. Like Amanda said, things take a long time, habits take a long time. That's what they grew up in, that's their norm, and that's the way their entire family system works. So it's hard, and it's a lot about looking for the small changes. I have one client who I've struggled with, and DFS referrals, and finally a couple months ago, she decided to get a tubal, which was something that I saw as a big achievement because she is deciding to take care of the 2 children she does have. And she said, you know, if I decide down the road that I want kids, I need to be with somebody who has enough money to reverse my tubal. That was her decision, but I have another client who has a hard time realizing when her child is whining that he probably needs something. So the other day I was at the house and she was eating yogurt and he was whining, and finally she said, oh, do you want a yogurt? He just shook his head. Oh, you recognized your child's needs. So small baby steps. By the end of the 2-year program, I'm not going to change their life and I'm not going to change their family, and they may go right back into the way that the rest of their family is, but if I had a small change in their life, that's what I hope for.
Coming into the situation where you see that the child is severely endangered, and it's up to you to notify authorities or get family services involved to have the child removed.
DFS, whenever I contact DFS, their first question is this child in imminent danger? If I believe that child could die in the next day if they do not take protective custody, that is what they deem imminent danger. Otherwise, I just have to keep watching it. I have to have good documentation, keep in constant contact with DFS. I had one family that I visited twice a week, and after every visit I called DFS because I was so persistent about it. I think sometimes we can see things differently being in the home constantly, whereas they can show up and see things and they look fantastic. But being persistent and being willing to speak up, and I guess not being concerned about the consequences. Like I've had clients that after DFS was in there, they were done with me, and that's okay. I mean, it is what it is, but I was trying to protect the child. Over here. Yes.
So what you do is fairly intimate and you build this relationship over 2 years or even more. How do you terminate that relationship, especially if you see that your clients, maybe they're still not where they should be as far as taking care of kids? How do you cope with that yourself, having to terminate?
Talking with coworkers, talking with friends, recognizing that I am not going to change the world for them. I have had clients who I obviously have different relationship with, but I just have to constantly be aware of that nurse-client boundary. If I cross that boundary, all bets are off. Built into the program, there are certain things that, so we're not supposed to go to birthday parties, we're not supposed to go to things outside of our norm. If I wouldn't do it for one client, I shouldn't do it for any of my other clients because that is that boundary. There are always special circumstances. I recently had a client who graduated climb, and she asked me to come to the graduation, and I had a really, really hard time with it. And I talked to my director about it. This specific client, when she asked me to come, I said, well, who else is going to be there from your family, trying to make sure that she would have other people there. And she said, well, I think my mom's going to come, or maybe my grandpa. She said, but I don't care about them. She said, you are my person. So there are special circumstances, but trying to constantly be aware of that nurse-client boundary is so important because you can really hurt yourself as well. I mean, you can hurt the client and you can hurt yourself. Michelle.
Will you talk about your parenting classes?
Yes. Can I have one of those? Oh, I think. Let me just. Yes. This will help me make sure I talk about it. Okay, so we talked about best beginnings, program services and goals, partners for a healthy baby, nurse-family partnership. Oh, so welcome home visits. We get a referral of every woman who is delivered at our hospital, and if somebody, say from Sweetwater County, went to Evanston and delivered, or ended up getting flown out to Salt Lake and was delivered, we get those referrals. So we find out every person in our county that has had a baby. By state mandate, we have to try to attempt to contact them a minimum of 3 times to offer a welcome home visit. I often feel like a stalker.
Yeah, you guys sucked me in.
We are stalkers. We don't like it, but that's a state mandate so that we can get funding. So we have to try to contact them, offer them a free welcome home visit, which I sell as it's a chance for you to ask any questions that have come up since discharge. I will weigh your baby. That's usually the kicker for a lot of people. They like to know how much their babies weigh. So that can lead into further home visiting. So we go in for a welcome home visit and they say, well, can you come back a couple times just for questions? And we can do that under that Partners for a Healthy Baby. And then the parenting classes that Michelle was talking about. So the person who is our best beginnings coordinator and is the social worker does parenting classes. A lot of the people that come to her parenting class are court mandated. They have had their children taken away, and this is one of the things that they have to do in order to try to get their children back. But as part of my training when I first started, I had to attend the parenting class, and I use stuff from that class constantly. It is very intensive. It's twice a week for like 3 or 4 months. She often does have child care on site, but she teaches pretty amazing things. It's geared for, birth to 9 years old, so even older kids. We do have people that sign up just because they want the information.
Does that have a fee?
Nope. We do not have a single program. Well, some of our clinical service, obviously, but we don't have any programs that cost any money. They are all free. We do have some income-based programs, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but, and her name is Linda Cornell. She is the one who does that, and she's also kind of the one that I was talking about, like that's our gatekeeper. The 3 programs that we do have that are income-based are the maternal and children's health programs, which are maternal high-risk, newborn intensive care, and children's special health. The maternal high-risk program is just for women who are pregnant and need greater than normal services. Maybe they have high blood pressure, maybe the doctor did an ultrasound and had some concerns, so they're having to go down to Utah and get special services. Or maybe they are 30 weeks, their blood pressure spikes, and they have to be shipped down to Utah. That can help to cover that. Newborn intensive care is for babies who are born and need greater than normal care. Again, maybe shipped down to Utah on a ventilator, prematurity, those sorts of things. And the last one is children's special health. This has so many different things under it. I have a baby who I just admitted to this program who got tubes in his ears. We have some that have congenital heart defects, so autism, cleft palate, cleft lip, mental retardation. So there's lots that fall under that, but those are income-based programs. And in that realm, what I am is a care coordinator. I make sure that they have the resources they need. We can do travel reimbursement, make sure that they can get out to their appointments, make sure that the family's needs are met.
Do you guys work closely with the CDC?
Yes, very much so. We have a lot of different meetings. One's called Intercoordinating Council, ICC, where places like WIC, Community Nursing, CDC, sometimes Young at Heart, all these people that are concerned with moms and babies come together, and we even do like case conferences where we talk about a client without using names and make sure that every service in our community they are linked with, because we have so many services. After 5 years at community nursing, I don't even know half of them. I still hear about new services that a lot of my clients could utilize. So constant coordination between all of the resources is very important, and here in Sweetwater County, we all work very well together. Some of the financial assistance things we can help with at community nursing, so the Medicaid and pregnant woman Medicaid. Linda Cornell does do Salvation Army vouchers. She is on the board for Salvation Army. So does anybody not know what Salvation Army is? Has anybody not heard about that before? Okay. Assistance with LEAP applications, which is a program, it's low income energy assistance program. So for clients who need help with their heating costs during the winter, we can help them with those applications. And energy share applications, that can be done any time of year, just making sure that they have hot water, they have electricity, all those basic needs to make sure that they can meet the needs of their children. I'm not going to go into the other couple programs because they are not maternal and children's health based at all. And then clinical services, so like Amanda mentioned, we do STD testing, we do pregnancy testing. There's our clinic hours, but we are getting ready to adjust them a little bit. We have found that this clinic schedule is kind of confusing for the public. So we're adding a little bit of time during the morning and just kind of trying to standardize. So don't look too much into that. We always do recommend appointments, but they are not necessary. We do billing for different insurance companies.
Do you have any services for adolescents? Besides the clinic?
When you're thinking adolescents, like what, give me age or services that you're kind of
So
thinking
like
of?
the family planning, you can come in and get services under the confidentiality. Do you have all of that available too?
Yep. Yes, so if somebody comes in and is 16 and needs an STD test or needs a pregnancy test, we still are able to do that for them. With the home visiting though, if they are under the age of 18, I do have to get parental consent. I'm not quite sure what the difference there is, but with home visiting, I do have to have their parents' consent to perform those services.
Even if they don't live in the home with their parents?
Then it has to be a guardian, or unless they're emancipated.
So can we just go and get the visits at the clinic instead of you coming to the home?
Ideally, it is home visiting, just because, so with the NFP program, they have done studies and studies and studies that this has been years that this is an evidence-based program, and they find that when you visit in the home, that is when you see the greatest changes. But I have had clients who absolutely do not want to meet at their home, whether it be they live at their parents' house and they don't feel like they can talk much there. One client lived with her parents for a short time, and she said, my parents' house is disgusting and I don't want you there. So she came to my office. I've had clients I've had to meet in coffee shops or at the park, but that's not the norm.
So you said that since it's an optive program, can we refer people of all economic stature? It doesn't have to be someone that we perceive as low income, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
And in all honesty, a lot of people that need it the most, low income, poverty, domestic violence, they are the people that do not want us there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I remember Kim said, a lot of people that do this are people that want to like be better moms, be better people.
And that's, I mean, that's the pro of the flexibility that we have, is we do have clients that have, I mean, bachelor's or master's degrees, or this is their third or fourth child, but because of that education, because of that knowledge, they know they don't know everything, and they know that extra help never hurts.
So for the clinical services, say for someone that's underage, what kind of fees are they gonna be looking towards if they come in and needing that?
For like pregnancy testing or STD testing, is that, so, are we finishing up? Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure. So there's the No-YO vouchers that provide the, and it's KNOWYO, right?
Yes.
That makes it so that it's a completely free service. If they come in and need a pregnancy test, we do request a donation fee, but we do not require it.
Are any of your services funding-wise related to the CHIP program that is kind of up in the air about funding?
The Kid Care Chip?
Yeah.
So we do help clients get, I mean, we help with the presumptive eligibility of pregnant woman Medicaid. We help get them to qualify for CHIP and family Medicaid. So we help link them to that resource, but we do not receive any funding from that particular program.